Rahil Rangwala, who's a partner at Accion Venture Lab. So it's a global early stage fintech for inclusion fund. Prior to Accion, he was a director at the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, where he worked on issues of urban poverty with a particular focus on financial inclusion and livelihoods. He started his professional career at Bridgewater Associates, a global macro hedge fund. From an education perspective, he has a bachelor's in computer science from the University of Texas in Austin and a master's in public administration with a focus on international development from the New York University. Welcome, Rahil. And Rahil, I would request you to invite your speakers on the dais and introduce them. Yeah, thanks.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to everyone to this panel on impact investing in InsurTech. I'd like to invite my fellow panelists. I think first I have Anup Agarwal, Head of Fintech at International Finance Corporation. Anup is the South Asia Fintech lead, currently leads Fintech investments for IFC in South Asia across payments, lending, InsurTech, wealth tech. In the past, he has originated and led several equity and debt investment transactions and successful investments in IFC in South Asia, East Asia, as well as Africa, across the financial services space, including banks, NBFCs, microfinance, housing finance, broking, PE, VC fund. It's pretty wide and encompassing, Anup, so thank you for joining us today. The next panelist that I have is Treasa, Mathew, who's the Director of Investments at Omidyar Network. Treasa leads investment strategy and investments in financial inclusion and well-being at Omidyar Network ONI, an impact investment firm. She has over 15 years of experience across impact investing, venture capital, and private equity. At ONI, she has led investments in areas including InsurTech, SaaS, and embedded finance. She currently serves on the boards of several portfolio companies such as Vartana, Credflow, Riskcovery, and KaleidoFin. We also have joining us today Sandeep Singhal from Avaana Capital and also one of the co-founders of Nexus. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll get started on the panel soon. Do we all have mics? So I know that we are now the one panel between you and lunch, and it's not a very enviable position to be in, but we will try and make this as interesting and useful and enlightening for everybody in the room today. So first of all, I want to thank everyone and welcome the panelists for joining us today. I'm going to start with you, Treasa, and ask you to do a quick introduction, a little bit about ONI, and since this is an InsurTech-focused discussion, what is your investment thesis in InsurTech today?
Thank you, Rahil, and thanks everyone for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. A little bit about ONI. We are an investment firm focused on impact. We manage about $700 million of AUM, and we aim to deploy about $450 million over the next 4 years. Our focus is on backing entrepreneurs solving for India's next $500 million. The next $500 million represents the second major wave of internet users in India. They mostly come from the bottom 60% of India's income pyramid. The insurance sector is of great interest to us because the low penetration of insurance is one of the biggest barriers to financial health in India. According to a recent study that we supported with Dwara Research, almost 74% of Indian households who experienced catastrophic healthcare expenditure had no health insurance, and health shocks are the biggest reasons behind families falling back into a poverty trap in India. And to solve this problem at scale, I think we need InsurTechs, solving both for product and distribution using technology-led innovative models. We have so far invested in 3 InsurTech companies. Riskcovery is an insurance distribution technology platform enabling any business to offer insurance digitally, including through embedded channels. GramCover is a technology-driven insurance marketplace focused on rural India. and Toffee is a provider of bite-sized insurance products. One other area that we've been active in of late is digital tools to support insurance companies. So one of our most recent investments is in a company called SatSure, which among other things also works with insurance companies and provides them satellite data-based analytics to support claim processing in crop insurance. So that's broadly our InsurTech thesis and portfolio.
Thank you, Treasa. Anup, I'm going to turn to you next. And just for the room, so they have a sense of what is a little bit about IFC, as well as from an InsurTech perspective, what is IFC right now interested in?
So, see, IFC, very briefly about IFC. IFC is part of World Bank Group, largest DFI, and we focus a lot on development with the objective of creating jobs. Ultimate objective is poverty alleviation. Now, keeping this broader vision objective in mind, for each country, we have different strategies. So for example, for India, we have specific strategy where we focus a lot on financial inclusion. So if you go through our website, you will find details of different types of investments that we have made, whether it is in financial sector or infrastructure, manufacturing, agriculture, services across. Now, very specifically within financial sector, we have invested in several banks, NBFCs, microfinance, insurance, different types of companies who are playing a role in the financial sector. Now, financial inclusion as a theme is incomplete without insurance. You will see probably lending is one of the first requirements, or loans or borrowing is one of the first requirements, but as average income of people start going up, then people look for opportunities for saving, protection, and therefore insurance is very important. And we have a very strong focus on that in terms of investing in traditional insurance companies as well as several insurtechs. So I am part of the Fintech group, which is a small group within IFC, and we have invested in several insurtechs globally, and a few in India as well. Very recent investment in India that we did is in OnSurety, which focuses on providing insurance, health insurance to employees working in MSMEs. So that's where the angle of financial inclusion comes. So that's briefly about IFC and the work that we do on InsurTech. More we can talk later. Yeah.
Thank you, Anup. Sandeep, I'll ask you to answer the same question. A
Sure.
little bit about your thesis in InsurTech, as well as a little bit about Avaana.
So Avaana Capital is actually focused on climate and sustainability. So it's a little different than the other two folks that you just heard. So our approach is actually to look for solutions that are addressing the issue of climate and sustainability as it relates to insurance. So I think the point that Treasa brought up, SatSure is an interesting example of a company that's addressing the issue of climate and sustainability at a crop insurance level and so on. And so we would look at those type of investments out of Avaana right now. There is actually a very strong linkage between climate and sustainability and insurance. Our belief is that climate change will be the biggest driving factor for economic shifts in the insurance industry going forward. We are already seeing this in the US. Today, my friends in California cannot get home insurance because of this issue of climate change. People are not getting flood insurance or home insurance in Florida for the same reason. So it's only a matter of time before that issue gets, becomes a major issue across all markets. So from our perspective, we are looking for entrepreneurs that are building solutions to allow for better underwriting with new climate models getting built and so on. So that's the primary thing where Avaana is focusing in the InsurTech space. I also have from my prior life a couple of investments in InsurTech. One is Turtlemint when I was at Nexus, and then Avaana had made an investment in CoverFox from its first fund.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I really appreciate, first of all, you guys have been very succinct and kept to the brief and given the paucity of time. So thank you so much. Anup, I know you were talking about this notion of penetration of insurance, right, from an impact perspective. And I think that's a really critical point, or at least when we think from an impact perspective and an inclusion perspective. So I'd love to open this to the panel, and maybe Anup, you can get us started, which is so insurance penetration in the country is abysmal, right? And why do you think that is? And what can be done to change that? And how can we increase the penetration of insurance in India?
So I'll basically answer this based on my experience. So when I completed my studies, after that I joined a company. When I joined, so the organization gave me the option of joining the insurance, whatever policy they had. But there are a lot of people around whom I know in the ecosystem who are not working, but they are self-employed. And when I ask them, do you have insurance? And then their question would be, okay, what insurance are you talking? We have bought some life insurance, yeah. But then I ask them, okay, do you have health insurance? Very few people have. Now, if we go back and try to understand, why is it so? Maybe lack of awareness, or people feel, okay, we might spend X amount of money, no problem, we can afford. Why to unnecessarily give premium to an insurance company? Or maybe, they don't know how to go and buy, where to go and buy, right? And if at all, they buy an insurance, they don't know how to claim. So there are a lot of, if you see, this is from the customer point of view. But if you see from the market point of view, there are suppliers of insurance products. Have they made an effort to reach out? They are now if you look at the, we are a country of 1.4 billion population. We can have different categories, high income, middle income, low income, to make it simple. High income people, everybody reaches out to them. Middle income, mix. Low income, nobody. So, there is an angle of unit economics here. Who will put in that effort of going and, so does it work out from the supplier point of view? And that is where this angle of InsurTech now comes in, which is making a huge difference in terms of taking the products to masses. And we are seeing a difference happening now. So the problems are in terms of access, awareness, affordability, creation of products. Are there products which are relevant? And now we see a lot of innovative products also coming up. So the change is there.
So just what I hear you say is that because access and understanding have been challenges, CAC as a result on the acquisition side is the problem, and thus insurance penetration has lagged. I appreciate that perspective. Treasa, I'll ask you the same question, and then Sandeep, even for your perspective on this.
Yeah, I think Anup's, addressed both the supply side and the demand side challenges. I think from a demand perspective, I think, customer trust in this industry, both on the insurers and their intermediaries, continues to be quite low. And, this is an industry which is notorious for mis-selling and fine print, right? And most insurance companies do not even know their customers, let alone own them. And therefore, it's very hard to expect customer centricity in an industry that, does not even know its customers. So I think from a demand standpoint, that's one of the core challenges. And from a supply perspective, I think, this industry just needs a lot more investment. While there are 26 life insurers, 32 general insurers, there's hardly any innovation coming from the incumbents, right? Most of the innovation, both from a product standpoint and from a distribution standpoint, have come from the, newer entrants like Accion and Digit. And, that being the case, we just, I think, need a lot more players. And unfortunately, in the last 5 years, we've only seen 2 new entrants, finally starting operations in the general insurance space. And even if you look at, the capital flow into Fintech, right? In the last 5 years, almost $25 billion has been invested in Fintech. And insurance is only capturing about 14-15% of that, despite being such a large, fast-growing and attractive space. So I think, we just need, to lower the entry barriers, both from a capital and licensing perspective, and also to serve such a large and diverse population, we perhaps need many different types of, insurance companies. Like we've seen in banking, we have small finance banks. In the NBFC space, we have microfinance institutions. So we need more of those specialized institutions. We probably need regional players. We need, insurance companies which are focused on low-income households. I think, I think a lot of steps are being taken in the right direction. They're still at a, discussion stage, but I think a lot of that will also help address the supply side challenges, because ultimately we need more and more new entrepreneurs solving these challenges of access, affordability, through technology-led innovation.
Yeah, I think, Rahil, the first panel that we had today in the morning, I think was what sort of captured it really well. So it's fundamentally about data and process innovation. So if you have the data, you analyze the data, that addresses both issues. So your CAC issue and your product manufacturing issue, ultimately in this industry, more than any other industry, gets tied to the availability of high quality data and how you analyze it and how you use it for your process flow. So if I'm looking at stuff today, I'm actually looking at those two dimensions. So any entrepreneur that's coming to me and saying, okay, I have a new source of data that's available to me that allows me to do better underwriting or better, or even working with an insurance manufacturer, helping them underwrite better. Great idea. I'll go and, SatSure as an example of that. Similarly, if somebody is thinking through process innovation, the point that was made that it should not take 8 hours to have you, be discharged from a hospital before you actually get your claim processed, it's just a huge problem, right? So that is the second part which I think needs to be solved. If those two are solved across various insurance categories, if you start thinking about micro insurance is the way to go. Sachetizing insurance is the way you will get penetration to happen. That penetration and the lowering of cost is very critical for that. So transaction costs have to come down, right? So for example, from a philanthropic perspective, we have funded, there was a discussion around what NHA is doing with the health claims insurance, right? So we actually funded this initiative that Swasth Alliance is doing called HCX. So this is the same, what National Healthcare Exchange, where the idea is that today it costs somewhere between 100 to 150 rupees to process an insurance claim in the healthcare space. So that effectively means that you can't cover insurance that's less than, say, 5,000 or 10,000 rupees, right? So for that reason, insurers only cover inpatient care. Now, if I take that and I say, if I can bring that cost of processing down to 3 rupees, which is the target, right? So if it can come down to 3 rupees, then a 500 rupee OPD charge can also be covered. And I think the issue that, other point that was brought up was fraud. So I think, again, data and process workflows to bring down transaction costs will have a big impact in terms of access and what product you manufacture.
No, thank you so much. So you touched on a couple of things that segues well to my next question. And I want to take advantage of the fact that we have 3 investors on this panel. And I know in this audience today, there are a bunch of startups and founders that are keen to engage with the investor community. So, and you were talking about the kind of models that get you excited. So Sandeep, I'd want to maybe for you to expand on that, which is when you are looking at talking to a new pipeline, new sourcing, what is it that you're looking for? What gets you excited? And what do you want founders to be prepared to talk about when they reach out to you?
I think it goes back to the basics, right? So you're basically looking, everybody that you talk to for InsurTech in India, the interesting thing is always say it's a large market. When you go and peel the onion and you say, okay, this is what I'm working on, typically those are small markets. So the idea is, can anybody come and pitch to me this idea that this is a very large market, that I can build a business that's doing 100 million in revenue and therefore can get to $1 billion valuation, right? In InsurTech in India, I would say that's still pretty damn hard. And so the large market notion, being able to convince investor like me to say, okay, maybe it's not right away. Maybe it's a process, it's a journey. Today, I'm targeting a 20, 30, $50 million market, but the expectation is it'll become $1 billion market over time. So that's where it starts. And then beyond that, obviously, it's all the usual, tech first is very important. Today, any business that comes to me that's not tech first, you have to have a very important reason why you think that technology is not going to play a role in your business. It's becoming central. I don't want to go to the point of saying AI has to be there. There is enough to be done, at least in the Indian space, with just basic data analysis and combining with workflow. But again, if somebody has, I think there was a dimension around this, that generative AI is coming into the InsurTech space globally. If you can bring that to India faster, definitely worth looking at.
Thank you. Treasa, same question.
Yeah, I think, similar, right? I mean, like in any other sector, we look for large addressable market opportunities, technology-led, differentiated business models. Health insurance is a space where, we would like to do something. But just to add to that, I think we also look, particularly in the insurance space, we look, and like in any other space, we look for strong founding teams with complementary skill sets. But insurance in particular is also a very complex and highly regulated space. So, we would look for, some domain expertise within the team, although we like outside-in approaches and, totally innovative ideas. And in terms of, I think the other point to make is that, insurance as an industry is behind banking or payments or even asset management in terms of technology adoption, at least by 5 years. So we've seen that, it takes time to build scale in InsurTech businesses. And therefore, we would particularly look for, entrepreneurs who are in to play the long game. I think, patience and perseverance are probably even more important in this, sector as opposed to other segments within fintech. And lastly, I think being impact investors, we look for mission alignment and impact orientation. I think it's, it's good to start at the top of the income pyramid, but, we like to back founders who are committed towards, going down the income stack and, serving underserved customer segments in the longer term.
Thank you, Treasa. Anup, I mean, IFC is large DFI, and people feel they have to be very buttoned up when they approach you. But tell us, what's the inside scoop? What should people be prepared to answer when they come talk to you?
First of all, we are very approachable. So, something very interesting I'll share. When I look at InsurTech companies as such, I find they have a challenge in terms of making money. But when I look at wealth tech companies and I ask them, how are you making money? They say they are making money by selling insurance. So something.
Even payment companies.
Yeah, I mean, so somewhere, probably bundling is that an answer? I don't know. But let me, since you asked that question, when we look at the players, first of all, we look at it from very open mind. Each company is evaluated on its own merit. One point is given that India is a large market, so there's no doubt that there is a huge opportunity. The question is, okay, it's a large market. So first question is, what are you catering to? Which segment? What product are you offering? Now, therefore, then the next round of questions come up. So let me pick 3 examples, 3 types. Let's say, are you an insurance product manufacturing company? If you are a manufacturing company, then how will you create products? Where is the angle of innovation here? How are you different? Why do you think this product will work in the market? Right? So that is one part. In the initial phases, a lot of distribution companies came up. So they were following the approach of B2C, right? Or B2B2C, right? So how will you reach to the market? How will you distribute? And then will you be able to make money? Then the game is very different. You're more like a distributor. Now we are talking about, as Sandeep was mentioning, in terms of processing, then you look at very different type of capabilities. Then you are actually offering your processing solution to the existing companies. And therefore, how will you make money from that? Something very interesting, I'm yet to see such type of company, pure analytical companies, who can play with data and come up with some fantastic analysis. So there are opportunities, but each of these cases need to be evaluated. And then on merit, we decide, we invest. We have invested in a few. As I was mentioning, we invested recently in OnSurety because that's focused on manufacturing products for employees in the MSME space. We also invested in a company called OnSurety, which provides extended warranty and servicing. So, like this company is scaling up well. So depends case by case.
Thank you so much. Since this is an impact-focused panel, I think the global conversation is around climate. And I feel like we should address the challenges and the opportunities in the climate insurance space. Since this is a big focus for Avaana, Sandeep, I want to start with you. And I want to hear from you a little bit about the opportunities in climate insurance in the India market and maybe some of the challenges as well.
So, so we are actually bottoms-up investors. So we look for entrepreneurs to educate us rather than us having a thesis that drives things down. And I've seen that over the last 20 years of my journey at Nexus, that model has worked well for us. It's a challenge that I see that there aren't any entrepreneurs in India that I know of who are combining the two. So there is activity that's happening around, say, agronomy, right? People are today finding solutions to address, the challenge of what to grow, how to improve yields, and so on. But tying that back to crop insurance is still work in progress. There are POCs that are happening, but as far as I know, no large crop insurance company has actually integrated, a solution around geospatial data. And I was speaking to somebody from Google the other day. That's one of the things that they're working on. So they've actually gotten a partnership going with the Indian government to create a database of all land holdings in India and what they're growing, and use that as a means to provide and make that a public good.
Oh, wow.
Which allows anybody, any insurance company, any lender to be able to drive that, right? There's the whole AgriStack initiative that's going on anyways, and Google is sort of big part of that. So my view is that it's entrepreneur driven. People that are here, I hope somebody is listening. And the thing is really to go back and say, there was another panel that I was on where we were talking about climate and health and the two tied together. Same issue. We're not seeing today the climatic impact of health on health, heat issues, waterborne disease issues, and so on. Nobody's sort of figuring that and tying that back to insurance, or tying that back to lending, or tying that back to finance in general. So I think there is a gap in the two ecosystems, and maybe it's our job, maybe it's the job of IIA or whoever else to sort of bring those two together. I heard some of that today, and I'm glad to hear that maybe it'll push entrepreneurs to do stuff.
Thank you. Anup, do you have anything to add to that from a climate perspective? What are the interesting opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, see, first of all, climate is a big focus area for us, and in any deal that we do, whatever financial sector investments we try to make, we try to see that what strong climate angle can come in there. Now, within insurance space, as Sandeep was mentioning, that one of the areas is the agri space, right, where it can play a huge difference. But in general, if you see, how do you want to see climate here, let's say, or environment? Let me put it that way. Something, let's say, which reduces wastage, which brings more efficiency, uh, which helps in faster processing. All these are adding somewhere, in the process. So in general, I would think that we are yet to see very focused, specialized type of business models. There are few which do keep coming, and as he's rightly saying, we're looking for entrepreneurs who come up with innovative ideas, trying to give specialized solutions, and then support them. But of course, we are seeing globally some companies which are using drone technology and trying to see how they can map and use that data for pricing the product, also claim processing, faster processing, all that stuff. So those things are happening as well.
Treasa, would you have anything to add
Not
on that?
much to add except for that I think all these, disparate data sets exist. I mean, it's incredible the amount of data that is available about weather patterns going back 20 years, crop yields. I mean now in a lot of states, the, property data is also available, but, really stitching together all these disparate data sets, bringing together all these different technologies. I mean, there's geospatial, there is, AI, there's remote sensing. I think that's where the challenge is. And we've seen, in our portfolio companies like Satro have done a very good job of, bringing that together for agri credit. But in insurance, I think we're still some time away from, building those use cases.
One last question, because I know we're running out of time. IIA has done a phenomenal job in terms of fostering cross-sharing of learnings, collaboration, but for the ecosystem in general, I think I'd love to hear from the panel about opportunities on collaboration, whether they be across sectors, across organizations, across private and public sectors. What else do you think could be done to accelerate and overcome some of these challenges that we've been talking about today? Treasa, I'd like to start with you.
Sure. So, as an impact investor, we go beyond venture investing, and we also support efforts like research, government partnerships, awareness building, etc. And, one of the research efforts that we supported last year was a study on the state of health insurance ownership in India by Dwara Research. And, one of the learnings from that study was the crying need for integration between healthcare and insurance, because healthcare and insurance today operate independently. Even having access to health insurance is not ensuring, optimal utilization of health insurance, or nor is it, giving better access to healthcare, which it should. And, about 71% of the complaints in health insurance are related to the processing of claims. So I think one area where collaboration is much needed between healthcare providers, insurers, and maybe even third parties like managed care providers, just to ensure that there is better patient experience and outcomes. That's from an industry standpoint. From an investor standpoint, I would say that we've already seen successful examples of companies like Accion, which are really backed by multiple investors. I think in the past it was a domain for business houses, but now we have such a progressive regulator, and we hope we will see many more insurance companies which are led by innovative entrepreneurs but backed by multiple investors.
Thank you. Sandeep, anything to add from a collaboration opportunity perspective?
Yeah, I think there was a very important point that Treasa made when she talked about agri-credit and agri-insurance, and one is working and not. I actually think there is, within the financial sector itself, there is a big opportunity to collaborate, and for the credits space to actually pull along insurance in the journey. I think actually, if you just look at that segment in itself and say, okay, for every credit, is there an equivalent insurance product that has been built? And then tying that back to, I think at the sort of union government level, there is potentially a lot of regulatory efforts that can be made from a collaboration perspective. So the point that she made about healthcare and insurance. So NHA and IRDA finally got together to say there should be a single set of guidelines to provide this interchange between providers and insurers. Because insurers are being tracked by IRDA, the providers are being tracked by NHA. So unless those two collaborate, you don't get the right answer at the ground level. So there is a collaboration between ministries, there's a collaboration between regulators, and then there's a collaboration with the industry itself.
Anup?
Yeah, so, you know, the way I would put it is, let's say a few years back, I used to hear collaboration, like bank assurance, yeah, that was the word, right? So you only collaborate with banks and distribute your insurance products. But now I see there are so many other platforms with whom insurance companies are collaborating. Like, for example, Acco, you know, is collaborating with Amazon, right? And so there are, one is collaboration on the distribution side, you know, where you try to see where the customer flow is there, and then you try to offer your insurance product. Recently, I was buying an airline ticket for going overseas, and I found, okay, if I pay 10,000 rupees extra, then I'll get full refund. That's also a type of insurance product, right? So somebody has come up with an innovative insurance product. I am willing to pay 10,000 rupees on a 3 lakh rupees ticket, right? And I am getting fully covered. So this is an element of embedded insurance tying up with a sort of a ticketing platform. So that is on the distribution side. And now on the services side also there is a lot of collaboration. You know, as you were mentioning, Treasa, that you try to collaborate with hospitals or even doctors, wellness, you know, yoga gurus, and so many other ways of collaborating. All are coming together, trying to form an ecosystem and offer services. So due to technology, this has become possible. It's become much easier. So collaboration is the way to win, actually. You save your operating cost, you are able to access more, you are able to offer services in a much better way. And that is actually happening. I'm seeing some of those things happening.
Yeah, and you can focus on your competitive advantage.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, so thank you so much. We're at time, and we are also holding you up from lunch. So I know we didn't have time for audience questions, and I apologize. We didn't have enough time for that. But the panel will be around, so hopefully you can grab them during lunch or post this panel and ask any of the questions that you may want to discuss with them. But thank you again to the panel.
Thank you,
Really
Rahil.
appreciate you guys
Thanks,
sharing your
everyone.
perspective.